Hello and welcome. You're watching India Fights Back with me, Vishal Dahiya, and here we bring you details of the steps being taken to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, today we're going to talk about one such step. In fact, recently, results of a clinical trial have been announced indicating that SaNOtize's Nitric Oxide nasal spray, that is NONS, represents a safe and effective antiviral treatment that could prevent the transmission of COVID-19, shorten its course and reduce the severity of symptoms and damage in those who've already been infected. So we'll try and understand more about this therapeutic treatment for COVID-19, NONS, what exactly it is, what does the clinical trial say. They have the findings have been there, and to understand more, we have with us two distinguished experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Stephen Winchester. He is a consultant and medical virologist, and he's also the chief investigator of the NHS clinical trial of NONS. We also have with us Professor N.K. Ganguly, former Director General of Indian Council of Medical Research. Welcome, both of you gentlemen. Let me begin with you, Dr. Stephen. Let's first start by understanding a bit more about this clinical trial and NONS. What exactly is this nasal spray?
Sure. So the nasal spray is nitric oxide releasing spray. And the purpose of providing nitric oxide is so that it actually has a virucidal effect, antiviral effect. And so it interferes with the binding of the virus to the host ACE2 receptor. And it also can permeate and interfere with the transcription and replication of the virus as well. And so by providing it as a nasal spray, it is then to spray the upper airways, the upper respiratory tract, and suppress the replication of the virus and aim to reduce the risk or likelihood of spread of the virus to the lower respiratory tract, which, as we know, is associated with, in some cases, with severe illness, hospitalization, and so on.
Okay. And how was the clinical trial conducted? Since you're the chief investigator out there, what's the key findings there? And, how did you guys go about it?
Sure. So it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. And the patients that we studied were patients with mild infection, because we were looking to see that we could suppress the replication of the virus in these patients. And so half the patients were administered the nasal spray releasing nitric oxide, and half the patients were provided a placebo spray. And what the difference we found between the two groups is that there was an accelerated clearance of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in those receiving the nasal spray, and this was marked at days 2 and 4 after starting the spray in particular.
Okay, and quite encouraging results. If I can go through the summary of the study out here, quite encouraging results from the clinical trial there.
Indeed, so an over-log difference between the placebo and the active group at days 2 and 4. So a much more reduced viral load, essentially, in the group receiving the nitric oxide, which is indeed very encouraging.
Okay. Let me also bring in Professor N.K. Ganguly here. Professor Ganguly, you heard Dr. Stephen there. Your views on this nasal spray and also this form of therapeutic treatment?
Yeah, actually, Vishal, I have some direct experience in this. When I was in PGI Chandigarh and our troop in Sachin were dying of pulmonary edema, we used nitric oxide oxygen mix with Peter Harris from London, as well as the DPAS DRDO organ, and we saved our Indian soldiers who also had a storm of the hormones which were neutralizing the body water compartments. So similar experiments have been done there. Nitric oxide is a very potent thing. It actually combines with the reactive oxygen species to form peroxynitrites and kills viruses, kills bacteria, kills parasite and fungi also. It has a mechanism of action where it binds to cysteine containing amino acids, and there where the spike protein binds. So thereby it prevents the binding. One problem in the blood is that it is cleaved by the hemoglobin. So in the nasal spray, there are no problem of that. And as it permeates, it will also affect the viral transcription, as Stephen has said. And it will also have an effect on the increased blood flow in the lungs. So it will have an indirect effect over there. It can be administered, self-administered by people, because this nasal spray, as I have seen it and I have studied it, it is very good. And it will also bring down inflammation, because it also works on the cytokines. In COVID, then just bringing the viral load is not important. Even then the inflammation kills. That is why you use corticosteroids and others. So this moiety, this brings down the inflammation. Only problem in nitric oxide is it dilates the vessels also. But problem is that it is a very short-living substance. It is neutral. It is finished very quickly. So it may have to given several times in a day to make it effective. The thing will be refined. There are other nasal shields which are also in development. One is Virologist from Australia, which is an SPL containing substance. The other one is a polylysine coat. Polylysine also binds to substances. And the polylysine shield, this is also being developed. This is being developed in India also. And another one with the acetyl salicylic acid containing moieties, which are bound to a matrix. So there are several such principles which are being developed in India also, but this is something which is God-given. I think it should be used very quickly, and I will request the SaNOtize guys that they should give online licenses to Indian companies, because they're very easy to prepare. So some of the Indian companies I know have already prepared this. So in order that nothing untoward happens as far as patent, etc. are concerned, it is very important that they identify and out-license, as remdesivir and other things have been done to some of the Indian companies.
Okay. We'll come to the licensing, manufacture, and the supply chain part also as well. But since you spoke about nitric oxide out there, Dr. Ganguly, I'd like to bring in Dr. Stephen here as well. Dr. Stephen, the question which we would want to understand much better is why go in for nitric oxide there, and how it helps also in terms of understanding in a much better way the pharmacology or the toxicity data of nitric oxide use in humans.
Yeah, so I mean, in the study, it was very well tolerated. There were no, adverse reactions in any of the group receiving it. Because we're treating mild infection, we're able to give it in the spray in this way versus treating lower respiratory tract illness with nitric oxide, traditionally done, using cylinders in a hospitalized environment, increasing the risk of associated infections by being in a healthcare setting. Whereas this is a spray that was given in the community. So it's safe, well tolerated, at levels not believed to, lead to the side effects that would come at higher doses.
Okay, and then how would you compare it with, some other nasal sprays, some of which were mentioned by Dr. Ganguly as well, Virologist being one of them, and then few others as well. Looks like they use a different component out there. If I'm not wrong, Virologist uses sodium, if I'm not wrong out there. But yours is using nitric oxide. What's the difference? Just to make us understand, are all these compounds safe? They can be used in different ways and manners?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't know the specific details on the other sprays. They all have their different mechanism of action, like So obviously, what we studied is the viral load in with this particular spray, and we've seen this effect, and that's why we felt that it was beneficial. It would be very interesting to see those the data with the other sprays, as you mentioned. But obviously, this is the study that we've undertaken.
Okay, and how big do you think this can be termed as a development in the battle against COVID pandemic? Because if you look at the options available right now, scientists across the world are struggling to find that the best shot against COVID-19 virus, against SARS-CoV-2.
Yes, exactly, and as you mentioned, it is a struggle, isn't it? Because even with the development of vaccines, there's the issue of variants of concern and evasion of the vaccines. But certainly the mechanism of this act is very broad, not just for SARS-CoV-2, but as was mentioned by Professor Ganguly, it was also active against other viruses, bacteria, parasites, fungi as well. So because of its broad action, there's obviously a role it could play, in this pandemic, absolutely.
Okay, Dr. Ganguly, in your views, how would you look at this therapeutic form of treatment? Because we've in this particular show, we've discussed quite a number of options over the last year. We've seen how various drugs were being repurposed, and then obviously the development of vaccine as well. But with this nasal spray, coming into picture, and others as well, which you were mentioning, is this the kind of breakthrough which we were looking forward to stall the development or the role of the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, we are grateful to Dr. Stephen and his team because, Vishal, these mutants are creating havoc. Now this mutant, there's a New England Journal of Medicine and AMA paper that we knew that British mutant was only transmissible, but it is not. It is not creating more mortality, but now it is creating mortality. It is affecting younger people, and it is causing high fever. So the nitric oxide is a thing which looks at all viruses similarly. So it will be a boon for the mutants. We do not have any answer to mutants at the moment, although Pfizer and Moderna have created next generation moieties with mutant, and they have said that you take a third shot. Pfizer has said you take a third shot also. But essentially, this will be very cost-effective and easy thing to take care from the mutants. There are other, and there is no fear for this because nitric oxide is an inducible substance within our body. And so we should not fear that it will cause too much, and it doesn't stay for a long in our body. It is destroyed and broken down into citrulline very quickly. And there are other substances like the sildenafil citrate, which is used for erectile dysfunction, but is now used for pulmonary hypertension and blue babies. It also produces nitric oxide. But here the beauty is that it is not systemic nitric oxide, it is nitric oxide locally. And since the virus spreads mainly through droplets, if you really block it in the nose right in the beginning, it will be not only therapeutic, it will be very strong preventive mechanism against the viruses. So the areas where there are hotspots, you are not able to really, you are going to election rally, or you are going to a place where you cannot really control things, give a spray. This is just a lighter mode. Just give a spray, and maybe these guys will not spread infection anymore. So it has got several uses. And this is the first cut of the clinical trial which has come. People are very innovative. They will find huge number of uses for this. And the other Virologist, which we were saying, is a heterodimer sodium. And this particular dimer is a linker. And it also really removes the virus. So it also prevents the binding of the virus. But nitric oxide is a natural substance. So I'm more excited about nitric oxide. And it doesn't stay. It is broken down.
Okay, that's indeed a very positive development out there. But Dr. Stephen, on the mutants part there, on the variants part, if I was looking at the summary of the clinical trial again, in this clinical trial, the NONS, this nasal spray, SaNOtize's nasal spray was tried on those patients who were infected with the UK variant of the COVID-19 virus. How effective do you think it might be with the other mutants as well? Or will there be some other studies which will have to be conducted or some modifications being made thereof?
Yes, we would anticipate that it would, because of the mechanism of action, as has been explained, that we would anticipate the same effect. It happened that we tested the UK variants because that was the prevalent, the local prevalence to the study. But we would anticipate the same effect, irrespective of a variant where with some amino acid mutations, not necessarily going to have any impact at all on the treatment. We are obviously, like you say, studies. We are conducting further studies to add to that weight of argument, but that is our expectation. Yeah.
Okay, and how about going back to the first point which was raised by Dr. Ganguly about the authorization which you guys have applied for it being allowed to be used in some of the countries in terms of the strategy with not only the manufacturing but also licensing, supply chain as well, because if it's as effective as it has been proved in the clinical trial, then obviously there'll be a huge demand across the globe. The entire world is reeling under COVID pandemic.
Absolutely. So I'm not here, I don't represent the company because I'm the investigator, but I'm sure that they would be very keen to have further those discussions. That's very interesting discussions. And I also thought Professor Ganguly made a very interesting point about prevention as well there, because obviously what we were seeing was a decline in the viral loads, accelerating that decline by the treatment. And of course, the quantity of virus that people expel is believed to be related to how infectious they are. So this is effectively reducing the infectious period, and that could then obviously reduce the onward transmission as well. So it could have a major impact in that direction, not just on the treatment side, but prophylactically as well.
Okay, and a related point out there, Dr. Stephen, is also, as Dr. Ganguly is pointing out, that it will have to be used repetitively for effective results. Is that the case?
Well, essentially, yes. I mean, to treat, then obviously that is the plan, that you would treat for establish a treatment course for it. As a prevention, then you would be redosing essentially, and this could be potentially for people who maybe aren't eligible for vaccine, for instance. This could be a breakthrough in that regard. So there would be a need for continual use, and that usage could be based on prevalence data.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Ganguly, if we have to understand much better from an Indian context as well, the way we are seeing the second surge, huge numbers on a daily basis, treatments like these, options like these which are coming up, how they can be utilized in the overall framework which we have. Obviously, we are pushing on the vaccination front as well, but the way the numbers are rising, the COVID positive numbers, cases are rising, how can we go ahead and utilize this in our framework?
Actually, our framework at the moment, Vishal, we are in a very bad shape. It is surging, hospitals are collapsing, the waiting list of people, patients are very high. And as you know that the new infection is affecting very severely people. So this kind of a thing can be home administered. It can be administered by patient himself or herself at home. So just imagine the situation that if we have a saliva diagnostic which has been brought out by Israel, which is very quick, which can be done at the home level also. So many people are hiding when they have fever, but they are not going for tests, because what they think that if they go for test, if they're 2 or 3 nuclear family, they will be imprisoned in their house. Nobody will be able to hospitalize them or give them drug or give them food. So these guys self-medicate also. So these guys, it will be a boon that if you have a fever, if you could get something diagnostic done quickly, and if this could be administered early in the infection, just imagine what benefits will come out of this. So I think this will be a game changer. And I will give these guys who have discovered it full marks for discovering something which is very important. Only thing that we will have to enhance the clinical trial to other countries so that we know that it works in multiple situations, and wherever, when, what are the, now it is in a very regulated regime it has been administered. When we administer to masses, we actually know that how it works and whether it has got some other unknown adverse effects or not. So I will request Stephen and the group to do multi-country trials as well as do a good phase 4 data accumulation when it goes to the market to large number of masses. Now we have got apps in which we could know that how it works in a different situation, how it works for the minorities, how it works for the masses who live in the slums or other situations where they may not be able to administer it properly. So could it be administered without training? And what will be the effect? So there are a large number of things which we need still to know. But I think this particular invention will be noticed by the world and it will get reward and award. I am thrilled with this, and I know that this will be a game changer.
Indeed, it is all set to. Dr. Stephen, your views there on the point mentioned by Dr. Ganguly in terms of, further trials, multi-country trials and, different age groups there as well?
Absolutely. That's absolutely our intention. I fully agree with Professor Ganguly that we want to take this further and, really demonstrate the efficacy, like you say, in these different settings with different patient groups. Absolutely. So, we look forward to progressing with that.
And how soon do we believe, we can have further data set out there? And also, in terms of a concluding comment from you, Dr. Stephen, what all should we be looking forward to with this option of our defense against the COVID pandemic?
Yes. So we're in the process at the moment of progressing the next trial, absolutely, and like you talk about licensing, I know that's a SaNOtize issue, but they are obviously fully supportive of trying to get this licensed and available as soon as possible, in order that studies like, as Professor Ganguly mentions, that then it actually can progress with some other studies as well. So fully behind that.
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen, as well as Professor N.K. Ganguly, for sharing your views and insights on this very, very important development, wherein the clinical trials, results of SaNOtize's nitric oxide nasal spray have been released, and they are quite positive in terms of how this can be used as a sort of a prevention against COVID-19 and also treatment for those who've been infected. Let's wait and watch for further developments on this front and also what the further trials say. But so far, so good on this front here. Before we leave, let us also remind you the importance of COVID-19 appropriate behavior. Now that we are witnessing a huge surge in cases, it is quite important that all of us adhere to the COVID-19 appropriate behavior. That is, wear your mask at all times, wash your hands regularly. Hand hygiene is really, really important. So is physical distancing, that is ensuring that you maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from each other while being in public places. These 3 simple steps will go a long way in ensuring your near and dear ones and everybody else in the society's safety. So stay safe, ensure that you adhere to COVID-19 appropriate behavior. We'll come back again with a different aspect of this battle against COVID-19 pandemic. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.